Right, hello and welcome to my May 2018 Patreon Q&A video. Yeah, it's almost the end of June, and so I really should just be taking questions from my Patreon supporters for the month of June, but I really wanted to keep up the continuity of doing a Patreon Q&A video every single month, as long as I have patrons who support me. So this is the May Q&A, which has only a few questions, because not a lot of people, I don't know if people have even seen my posts on the Facebook group and the Patreon website itself, but I have a few questions, enough to work with, and the June Q&A hopefully will be a bit more expanded and people might have more time. I don't know, maybe people are just running out of questions, which is a perfectly valid way of things to go, because I pretty much have the same Patreon supporters for the most part. There's a few new people recently, so thank you very much. But anyway, so I'm going to dive into it. I actually just messaged Graham over at Man vs. Film if he had a question, and he replied within 1 minute. So his question, we'll kick that off. We'll kick this off with that. With Graham's question, which is, what's your favourite movie to cheer you up when you're down? I don't have one. This is more of a theoretical question. When I'm down, I don't do anything, and just the idea of watching a film just makes me feel even more shit. Like, when I'm down, I just do nothing, and it's horrible. So I wish I had that kind of very stereotypical slash conventional kind of, you know, I'm feeling horrible, I'm gonna watch a movie to make me feel better. It never really works like that. Maybe I should try it one day and I might actually feel better, I don't know. But to think about that for a second, because again I do all these questions right off the cuff, on the fly. Movies that would make me feel better, just real feel-good films. I just immediately jumped to Dumb and Dumber. I think that's one of my favourite comedies of all time. Wayne's World is such a great feel-good movie. It's going to be mainly comedies, I think. Ghostbusters. Maybe some romantic comedies, I think. You've Got Mail would be one. You've Got Mail is a real feel-good movie that I think I would love to watch, theoretically, when I'm down, and have it make me feel better about things. I don't know. But yeah, it's usually just fluff like that, really. Not to write off, you know, those great comedy films as fluff, but you know, things that aren't too involving or taxing. It would be those kinds of movies. Maybe even like Last Action Hero, I think. That would be a real... I remember watching that when I was home. Jesus Christ, I'll leave that one in for free. I watched that one when I was home sick from school once, and that kind of cheered me up, actually, because I think I was being bullied at the time. So there we go. There's a few to kind of work into that, tie into that question. Now for the main ones, even though Graham's a Patreon supporter, so it shouldn't be any different. From Daniel Smith, he says, just the one question this month: are you going to buy any of the HMV VHS Blu-rays? The short answer is probably not, but I'm open to it. The long answer is HMV are releasing a new line of special packaging Blu-rays in July. I think it's the 20th or the 30th of July, and they've got like The Thing, you know, they've got I think Airplane, maybe, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like some real kind of classic kind of 80s movies, I think. Now I'm not even sure if those are the ones, but I know that The Thing is definitely one of them. There's one that I saw that I really wanted to get that I don't own, and I think it might have been Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But, you know, I'd like to see what it looks like first. Apparently they're VHS-shaped boxes, but they're not VHS size. They're tailor-made to fit on the Blu-ray shelf, which I suppose is good on the one hand. On the other hand, is kind of going against what it's supposed to be. I'm just intrigued to see what the setup is, but you get some like nice art cards and things like that. I think the price point, I think they're like 15 quid or something, a bit too pricey, you know, maybe at sale prices I'd be a bit more interested, but they're cool, you know. VHS is always going to be cool to me. It's kind of what I grew up with. That's how I discovered movies for the very first time, was watching them on video, so that would be something that I would gravitate towards very heavily, I think. But it's, you know, it's the movie choices, you know, it's the same old films that get re-released every year in different packaging, different slip covers, steelbooks, you know, digibooks up the ass. Like they've rinsed certain titles so much that it starts to lose some of its specialness, I suppose. So there we go. So that's my answer to that question. Next we have from Prodigon. Which movie made you most disappointed and not lived up to your expectations? That's his first question. Now, I've answered this question a few times over the years, a movie that disappointed me or let me down, and it's really hard to think of one. It really is. There are films that I think are really great and then they just don't stick the landing, and that really kind of bugs me somewhat. We'll take Hereditary, for example. I'm not going to spoil anything. The new horror movie, Hereditary, one of the best horror films I've ever seen. I just feel like the last 5 to 3 minutes, you know, they work within the story, but it just doesn't stick the landing. It's like 2 hours of just absolute dread and just like this the whole time, and then at the end it's like, ah, okay. And then the credits roll. You know, it kind of drops off so much that I just wish that it just kind of made it more of a climax, you know. And then if it had that, to me it would be like, you know, maybe one of the best films I've ever seen, period. I don't know, but it just, that's when things bug me, when the ending of the film doesn't quite stick the landing again. It Comes at Night was another recent horror film that was so incredible. The acting, the cinematography, a great kind of survival story of a family living in the woods, and it's set at a time where, you know, something has happened out there, and you know, bad stuff is going down. And throughout the film you get these dream sequences. One of the characters, he has these nightmares, and when he has a nightmare, the aspect ratio of the film changes. So it goes from, say, this to maybe black bars at the top and the bottom, and I forget exactly what the change was, but there's a distinctive look of the film when this kid is having these nightmares, and so you're trained to believe, okay, this means this scene isn't real. And then the big climax of the film where really bad stuff happens goes to that aspect ratio, so I'm like, oh, it's a nightmare, so it doesn't count. And then the film ends and I'm like, oh, it did count. So I was completely robbed of feeling the impact of the emotions because I'd been trained by this weird thing where they changed the size of the screen, you know, throughout the film, conditioning me to believe that that is stuff that is a nightmare of this one character. And then at the end of the film they're like, oh no, that part wasn't, even though we changed the... Yeah, so that was really disappointing because I thought it was a fantastic film that had no kind of weight at the end of it for me because of that thing. And maybe that's just me being really particular and technical about it, but there you go. So, yeah. But really there hasn't been anything like, you know, like a big Marvel movie or Star Wars where I felt disappointed. So I can't really give a good kind of general answer, but those are two very specific ones, I guess, in the horror genre. Interesting. His second question is, which is the most depressing movie you've ever seen? Mine is probably Requiem for a Dream. Well, I'll tell you, Hereditary. We keep coming back to that film, and for good reason. It really is. There's a 5-minute stretch in Hereditary that is probably one of the most depressing things I've ever seen, and just made me feel so horrible about life, and, you know, really, really bad. But as far as a whole movie, I would pick Requiem for a Dream as well. I'm with you on that one, man. That's a film that I think is a phenomenal piece of dramatic storytelling and acting, but fucking hell is that just a depressing, horrible film. Horrible in the sense of what happens to those characters, especially the old woman or middle-aged woman. I mean, that stuff is burned into my brain. I couldn't tell you like what happens in Requiem for a Dream. You know, there's junkies. You know, I saw it when I was a teenager. It's been a good 15 years since I've seen it. I'm going to have to watch it again to review it for the Epic Film Challenge 2, and I am thoroughly dreading it. So I'm with you on that one, but Hereditary is creeping up there. If you could travel back in time and go to any movie premiere, which one would you go to? I would say The Empire Strikes Back. Or even Star Wars. That's a tough one, actually. Like to be at like the first screening of Star Wars when people were like, "Wow!" with the ship going overhead, and you knew it was going to be a Star Wars movie, but like that first kind of like, this is something we've never seen before. This is something that is going to change the world of movies forever. That would be exciting. But I think deep down I'd pick Empire Strikes Back to hear the kind of the hushed kind of gasps of the crowd as Darth Vader says, "I am your father." You know, I'm always going to be riding off the high of seeing The Last Jedi on the Friday night, the first week it came out, when Rey and Kylo team up and they go back to back, and just this wave of like excitement in the air. It was so fucking cool. In fact, I'll go back to episode 2, Attack of the Clones, when Yoda whips out that lightsaber and just dives in and starts flying all over the place. That's one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced in the cinema, where everyone in the room just went, like, are we really seeing this? Like, Yoda flying around with a fucking lightsaber? And it was like a wave of, like, you felt it ripple through the fucking room of this, you know, it was like, take like 100, 150, 200 people and have them all go at the same time, and you can feel it, you know. So, I don't know, maybe that would be kind of like what it was to see Empire Strikes Back for the first time. Or I could go to the premiere of The Empire Strikes Back, hop in a DeLorean, go back to 1980, watch The Empire Strikes Back on opening night, and, you know, Luke, I am your father, and then everyone just keeps eating their crisps. I don't know, maybe it didn't have that impact that you kind of look back romantically that it would be this big thing, but maybe not, I don't know. And I just said something there that really bugged me, because it was wrong or something. It was incorrect, a wrong way of saying something. That's going to bug me because I've forgotten what it was. I got carried. What was I talking about? Jump in a DeLorean, go back to The Empire Strikes Back. Maybe it's going to really bug me. It's going to really bug me, but we'll leave it there for that side tangent. Sorry for my lack of editing. And Prodigon's final question is, which movie has the best intro scene? Ooh, Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight is. There's probably other ones that are really, really great that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but it's hard to beat that opening bank robbery scene. That's one of the all-time great sequences ever, I think. It's just so well put together. It's one of the best character introductions of all time, I think. Like the build-up of the Joker, you know, and all the goons kind of turning on each other. They're all killing each other per his kind of rules. He's kind of double-crossed all of them. And, you know, he's got the mask on, and it's kind of the idea that you're seeing the Joker with a clown face, but you're not seeing his face. It's all building up to that reveal. And even before he takes off that mask, he is that character. The way he's walking, the way he turns his head. And then of course you got like the music and kind of the action that was orchestrated. Just an incredible piece of filmmaking. So I'm going to stick with that one. I think there's probably loads that you know I've forgotten about, but that one always stands out to me as far as a great opening scene to a film. Thank you for the questions. Nick asks, I'm actually listening to the Stephen Fry audiobooks for Harry Potter. Good choice, they're fantastic. Which, by the way, if you haven't tried, you have to. Yeah, when I was a kid, and I got into the Harry Potter books, they'd released the first 3, I think, which you could get on audio cassette. But Goblet of Fire was so like unreasonably long that I think the box set was about 80 quid. It was this huge, massive pack. And then they had like the CD box set, because they're so long, you know. So I got I think I rented from the library, the Chamber of Secrets one, and then years later I kind of downloaded some of them, so they're just great. Stephen Fry, I'm a big fan of Stephen Fry in general, but I love his reading of the books. They're really calming and enjoyable to me, though I haven't really listened to all of them all the way through, for sure. Right, so what was your actual question? What scene of the books do you wish they'd not left out? I'm assuming you mean from the movie, the Harry Potter movies. Mine is a random one, but it's from Deathly Hallows, from Godric's Hollow chapter, when we see the night Harry's parents are killed from Voldemort's perspective. Yeah, that's a great one. Man, I want to read that book again. Yeah, to me, you know, Harry Potter is the best story I've ever experienced, and maybe one of the best ever told. You know, you can kind of look down your nose at it because it's become this big kind of money-making phenomenon and everything, but I think it's such an incredibly layered story that really is just all about love, which is such a, you know, that's the core of the human fucking experience, and that's all the whole story is about. It's about love and it's about death. You know, it's about the 2 key things that make us human, that we know we're going to die, and that we know we can love people, and that we can kind of let love in. And that's kind of broad strokes what Harry Potter is all about, but it's dressed with all this kind of fantastical stuff. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing about Harry Potter, but I love Harry Potter, and the Deathly Hallows is a great book, and the movies are for the most part really, really good. Some of them have great moments, But yeah, you know, it's when you read the books and you watch the films, you're always going to get purist about it. You're going to be like, oh, that wasn't the same. But I understand you have to adapt things and do it in a different way when you're adapting it to a different medium. There's one scene, and I cannot fucking stress this, like, enough. And if you want to see me really tee off on this subject, go to my series, The Harry Potter Odyssey, Part 8, I think it is, when I reviewed Deathly Hallows Part 2. I mean, I go into a massive rant about that. I think I even read from the book. I was so impassioned about this. Spoilers, not that anyone really cares, but when Harry kills Voldemort at the end of the movie, it takes place in an empty courtyard, and then he just kind of disappears into flakes. And I just imagine like a deleted scene where Harry goes back into the Great Hall, and everyone's like, Harry, what happened? And he's like, oh, just killed Voldemort. You killed It's over. It's finally over. Yeah, I just killed him. Well, where's the body? Disappeared. What do you mean it disappeared? You killed him, right? You're sure he's dead? He didn't just, like, you know, pull a trick and whip on an invisibility cloak and disappear. Like, you definitely killed him. Yeah, he just turned into flakes and just kind of became one with the air. And then everyone's like, right. I hated that. I understood the need to have them fly around and stuff and make it more of a movie fight and have more suspense and stuff. But there is nothing more satisfying. Nothing more satisfying in that entire fucking story than when he gets into that Great Hall with Voldemort and they're circling each other and everyone is fucking watching and Voldemort is like, you know, I'm gonna kill you and all this kind of stuff, and Harry's like, no you're not. He's like, I've got your number. He's like, I've figured you out. And here's all the stuff you didn't know about. Here's all the stuff you were wrong about. And here's exactly why I'm going to beat you. And there's no fucking way you're going to win. And he beats him in front of everyone. And it's incredible. It's such an amazing scene. The dialogue, the payoff of the entire fucking story. And in the movie, it's just like... oh, it's over. Like, and you can say, oh, well, it's a movie. You know, they've only got so much time. Make it 3 hours, like give us that 10-minute scene when that happened. You can do everything that happened in the movie exactly as it happened, but you know, they're fighting in the courtyard and then maybe they spill over into the Great Hall, and then that's when the big scene takes place. The big payoff that I was waiting for so many years in the movie, to see that scene realized, and they just went, nah, too much talking, he just kills him. As you can see, it's not easy to rile me. It's not hard to rile me up about that particular point. Thank you for the question. The final question is from Scott over at Cineram. What film directors or writers would you most like to see try their hand at episodic series? Is there anything you'd like to see adapted to a series format, movie, book, or other? It's a difficult one to kind of pitch on the spot. But looking at something like Cobra Kai, which was released a few months ago, the sequel to the Karate Kid movies, I mean, it is pretty much a 5-hour movie that you could easily call the Karate Kid Part 4, you know, or Part 5 if you wish, or Part 6 if you count the remake. But it really goes to show that if you do something right, it can really work as far as reimagining something. And obviously with that show, it wasn't like a film director coming in to do it. I'm guessing there were TV writers and directors. I'm not even too sure about the guys who made Cobra Kai, but I'm just thinking about like adapting a movie to a series, but also kind of making it a sequel and making it a faithful continuation of that story. That's something I think that just worked so much better than I thought it would. So for me, thinking about directors I'd like to see do a series, I'd love to see Wes Anderson perhaps do something like that, where it's a, you know, and with anyone really, if I'm thinking about the directors that I love and them doing a TV series, I think I'd like it to be like Cobra Kai, as far as like 10 episodes, you know, maybe 5 hours overall, and you just kind of tell a long story. It's not like a 22 episode kind of, you know, ongoing season after season, one and done kind of, even though Cobra Kai is going to be more than one season. But I really love just the idea of like a kind of a, you know, a limited event series like they called Twin Peaks: The Return, and we won't get into my thoughts on that being, you know, both a movie and a TV show. But you know, look at, I mean, that's something. David Lynch, like what David Lynch would do it to. I mean, he did Twin Peaks obviously 25 years ago, but it shows you that great directors can do TV series and produce something really spectacular. So Wes Anderson, I would love to see do something like that. obviously in the live action world, because stop motion would take him about 10 years to make a series, I think. But Richard Linklater is another one. Richard Linklater. I would love to see him do something, maybe in like the vein of maybe the Decalogue or something like that, where he has a concept and he runs with it for like 10 episodes, and you know, I'm not saying he'd have to take 10 years to make it, but you know, he's someone who really loves playing around with time and concepts in the realm of making movies, and I'd love to see him kind of do something like that. I think Spike Lee did a TV series of She's Gotta Have It, right? So, you know, directors are clearly doing it and moving into experimenting with TV and things like that. So that's what I'd like to see, would be like, you know, Wes Anderson, Richard Linklater, people like that. But I think you did ask in the question, get a little tongue-tied for a second, is there anything you'd like to see adapted to a series format? Right, so I've been thinking about this, and it's never going to happen, and it probably shouldn't happen, but it's not going to happen anyway, so I don't know why I should say that. But looking at Cobra Kai, plane going overhead, looking at like a great 80s movie that was a trilogy, and then, you know, 25, 30 years later had a TV series made that was a sequel to those first 3 movies and was so well done. Back to the Future. Give us Back to the Future Part 4 in the form of a 10-episode limited event series. You know, have Michael J. Fox come back. Have, you know, have the Parkinson's thing and address that within the character. Make that a part of the character. Make that a part of the story. Have him kind of, you know, maybe have his kids involved, or as in the character, you know, might say Marty's got kids, or perhaps, you know, a younger mentor, you know, and he can tell him about all his crazy adventures that he had at some point in time when he was younger, and about the myth of Doc Brown. I was just thinking, off the top of my head, I was thinking about this a few days ago, and you could have this kind of central mystery of, yeah, you know, Doc's been missing for a long time, although time is relative in the Back to the Future world, but, you know, we saw Doc go off on that train, and then, you know, what happened after that? You know, further adventures. I know they did a TV show, and there was also a video game that kind of expanded more of the story, but have it be about, you know, Marty maybe going back in time and trying to find Doc Emmett Brown, going to different time periods. They'd have to have a huge budget. They'd have to have Robert Zemeckis directing it. They'd have to have Alan Silvestri doing the score. And then they find Doc Brown, and then you have the reunion of, you know, of those 2 amazing characters, and then they've got to get back to the present timeline. And you give it this 10 episodes, you know, maybe 4 to 5 hours in length total. And how great would that be? Now, some people would say, no, they should never touch it. Don't, you know, you can't, you know, go back to what was perfect. And I kind of agree, to be honest with you. But, you know, if we're playing in the realm of fantasy, looking at Cobra Kai and how successful that was, and how it was better than, you know, the second and third movie, I think. Not that, you know, again, I'm not really directly comparing the Karate Kid movies and the Back to the Future movies, because the Back to the Future trilogy is fucking incredible, whereas the Karate Kid trilogy is very weak. If you look at the 3 movies, it's really the first one and bits of the second one that were great. But, you know, just it's something I didn't think would work. I thought this will be fun, but it's not going to be that good. You know, it's going to be a little bit cheesy, and you're thinking, oh, they probably, you know, they should have left this well alone. But it just impressed me so much, and it's an exciting way to return to stories and characters that you loved from previous things. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for the questions to all my Patreon supporters. Going to try and get some more exclusive videos to you. I know I did the movie vlog for you guys. I'm going to try and do more of those exclusive movie vlogs and things, just quick chats that I can do here and there. Things are starting to settle down a little bit, so I want to keep bringing those videos to you guys. Thank you as always for the support. Thank you to everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause